everyone. Welcome to the show today. Before we start, I just want to say I'm alone today. Lindsay is not well. I do hope everyone goes and gives her a little moral support. I'd like her to be back here ASAP. Thank you very much. Today on the show, we welcome Paul Bynes, a collector first, I think, and a podcaster. And what's special about Paul is that he is one of the first, if not the first, who actually started podcasting about cards and sketch cards way back in the day, like 10 years ago. Paul, is that how long it's been?
Probably closer to 20 now, yeah.
Really?
15 at least. 15 at the very least.
Really? Has it podcasting, was it 15 years ago? Were there such a thing as a podcast 15 years ago?
Not many. And a lot of them coming from America, because that's where a lot of them came from. I think some tech shows started off doing the podcasting. So This Week in Tech and things like that, which I used to subscribe to a lot. I know over here, podcasting really got its kick when Ricky Gervais did a podcast for the Guardian newspaper. But yeah, it's I'd say it's at least 15 years. I haven't been doing it for a few years. And I've certainly been doing it. Sorry?
Why did you stop?
Change of personal circumstances, and I was getting frustrated with some of the commercialization and some of the technical requirements that podcasting was heading towards. I could see things like Spotify and some of the bigger companies who now mass market podcasts. I went to a couple of podcaster meetings, and all they were talking about was monetization. And I wasn't in it for monetization. I was in it to share my hobby. And if I got something out of it, great. But I mean, my joke used to be the podcast introduced on a negative budget. It cost me money to put it out. It didn't cost me a lot, but I didn't get any advertising. I didn't get any sponsorship. A couple of occasions I was given something, which may well come up later on. But I didn't really gain materially hugely out of podcasting. And everybody that I was talking to who was starting to come in had their eye on the dollar, or had their eye on the pound. And they thought, well, we can sell this much advertising, and we can get sponsorship, and we can get product placement, and we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this. And I was starting to get a little frustrated at the expectation. So, plus, as I say, there was a change in personal circumstances, which meant I didn't really have the time to set aside for it. So it wasn't that I ever formally gave up. I just stopped one day and didn't go back.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
But I will be going back. We'll come to that.
Yeah.
I am going back.
It is pretty amazing, actually, when you think about it. I mean, well, first of all, obviously, I didn't even know there were podcasts like 15 plus years ago. I didn't start listening until maybe 10 years ago, maybe 12, but not much more than that. And that yours was one of the ones that I ended up starting to listen to. But you talked a lot about trading cards in general. And then as it went on, you started, I believe it was Behind the Canvas, I think it was.
That's right, yes.
And you did interview a few artists, moi inclus, which was amazing. And so it was sad that you kind of stopped it. You had a very interesting podcast.
Oh, I'll be honest with you. I started Behind the Canvas because I wanted to talk to people. I was being purely selfish. I wanted to talk to artists. By the time I started that one, I'd got into collecting what we call sketch cards. And I've been getting a few personal commission cards done. And I've been watching some of the art casts that some artists used to do back in those primitive days. And it was fun, and we used to be a little community of people who used to meet up on the art casts and text chat. You could hear the artist, you could see the artist, but you couldn't talk because the internet was so slow. It didn't have two-way. So there used to be little text boxes and things like that. And this was great, but I was frustrated because I wanted to talk to artists. So I started up that as purely as an excuse to talk to people like yourself and to talk to people. I think John Riggle was another one. I think Beck Seashells was another one. They all appeared either on Behind the Canvas or on UK Cardcast, which was my trading card podcast. And it was entirely because I just wanted to talk to people.
I understand. Yeah. It is fun to talk to people who understand where you're coming from a little bit.
Yeah. It was fun.
So you got into podcasting, obviously, because you are a collector first,
yes.
Right?
Well, what happened was, as we discussed earlier, I was listening to a lot of other podcasts, and they were mostly comedy shows or they were tech shows, and a lot of them were from America. And even then, there were sports card podcasts. Now, I'm not into sports. As anybody seeing me will realise, I've never been into sports. I'm not a kicky ball type person. So sports card podcasts weren't really of any interest. But there wasn't anything for non-sport cards. There was non-sport updates. I think they used to occasionally have little audio files on their website, little interviews. But it wasn't a podcast as such. Excuse me. So I thought, well, why can't there be a podcast about trading cards? There's enough trading card companies out there, and there are enough people who collect trading cards out there. Perhaps we can get the one to meet the other and meet in the middle, and I can be the crossroads. So I recorded a quick little down and dirty 10-minute thing talking about trading cards and some whatever news I'd read in Non-Sport Update that month. And I sent it to a few friends to say, what do you think? I want to do this. Is it any good? And they said, yeah, that's fine. We'll subscribe to that. So the following month, I think I managed to persuade a special guest to come on to talk, who you've had on yours recently.
And
that's Harris Tozer.
When you showed me that card, I didn't recognize him.
That was a very long time ago. Give you an idea, this card was 2003.
Whoa!
So I was doing the podcast then.
Ago. My gosh, you're right. It was 20 years ago then.
20 years ago today. Yeah.
Wow.
That was a card that I made up for charity, but it was at the Card Talk gathering, which is Non-Sport Updates community on the website. Harris used to come over and bring represent Non-Sport Update at the memorabilia show in Birmingham every November. So as a little joke, and we auctioned one of those off. Harris got one, I've got one, and we auctioned one off, and we gave the money to children in need or comic relief or one of those. But yeah, that was 2003. So I must have been going a while before that. I think it may even have been the December before, so 2002. I was going from. So yeah, it's been going a lot longer. But I got Harris on, and he represented Non-Sport Update. He was a little nervous because he hadn't done this sort of thing before. But basically, I asked him questions about what was going on in the world of trading cards, and he told me the news, and we had a bit of a joke. And as is our way, I used to make fun of Harris because Harris is readily available to be made fun of. And whenever he came over here, we always make fun, but in a gentle, polite way. And that went online, and I think I got a couple of hundred people listening to it, which was nice. And then I think the following episode, there was a big convention down in London that I went to, and I did recordings live, and I recorded interviews with Andy. Oh, I'm gonna regret not remembering his name now. It begins with a D. Very big in Star Wars trading cards. Anyway, he'd done a talk, and I sat in at the end of the talk, and then asked him if he'd mind talking to me. So I managed to record a few interviews at that, and that was my first live on location podcast. And then it went from there. I aim to do it every month, and we gradually got a regular audience. It's very difficult to tell what the figures were, but we were averaging about 500-600 people every episode.
Wow.
which back in the day when nobody knew what a podcast was, and every time I emailed someone, I'd say, "Would you like to be on my podcast?" "What's that?" "Oh, it's sort of radio, but on the internet." Now, if you say to somebody, "Oh, do you want to be on my podcast?" It's how much, who's sponsoring you, are you on YouTube?
Yeah, the YouTube.
Yeah, it was very rough and ready, but I was able to get people to come in and chat who maybe probably wouldn't do it now. And it meant I could not only could I get collectors to hear more information about the stuff that they liked collecting, but I could learn more information about the stuff that I like to collect, because, as you said, I was a collector. I used to collect Star Trek and Babylon 5 and Star Wars and Buffy and all those sorts of trading cards. And my collection gradually expanded as I learned about all these other independent companies that were doing unusual little sets, like Richard Parks, who we were talking about before you started recording, and Kurt Kirsteiner, who did some outrageously horrific cards, and Sidekick, who did some interesting, quirky art-based stuff, and the Perners, who have done some fantastic work. So it was a nice way for me to chat to people and learn things, but it was also a nice way for me to learn about other things that I could be collecting, but I didn't know much about, because I used to have people on to talk about sets that nobody over here would even know about in the UK.
Even now, I find, excuse me, the everybody knows about, of course, like you said, the sports cards and all, which I also just, it's not my thing. Otherwise, you have the big sets like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and I don't know, Outlander or something like that, which is like super duper awesome. But there's so many other things that you can collect, and it's surprising how many people don't really know they're there. I'm
No,
instantly surprised. I mean, I discover new stuff all the time, and there, even when I think of that, and there's so many people who've never heard of a Perna set or Richard Parks or Iconic or something like that. You know, any of the smaller ones. There's so many cool subjects now to collect. It's awesome.
it's an attitude that persists even now. I mean, the non-sports sets have expanded massively in subject matter and in the size and in the price. But they're still regarded as the poor relation of sports cards. If you talk to anybody now outside of the non-sport community and say, "Oh, I collect non-sport cards," "Oh, what do you mean, Pokemon? I
I'll have
mean,
to try
Yu-Gi-Oh!"
that. I have not spoken to anybody outside of.
A lot of
Yeah.
people, you say you collect trading cards, they say, "Oh, what sports cards?" "No, I collect non-sports." "Oh, what, like Pokemon?" "No, not like Pokemon." "Oh, well, Yu-Gi-Oh!" "No, not like Yu-Gi-Oh!" "Digimon?" "No, not Digimon." I had an interesting experience one time. I'm a fan of a theatrical company called the Reduced Shakespeare Company. And they were here in 2012 for the London Olympics. They had a show about sports. Their speciality is to do compressed shows. They do the complete history of Shakespeare reduced is their famous show, but this time they did the complete history of sports reduced. I knew it'd be funny because I know their work, and I was going to some events at the Olympics, and I managed to get a ticket for their show. And it's not common over here. It's more common in America. I don't know about in Canada. The cast will come out into the lobby after the show and do a meet and greet.
I don't know.
Some of the cast. No, they do in America. Some shows in America do, and this company did it over here, which was unusual. But anyway, and I was chatting to one of the cast members because they do a podcast. So I was chatting about podcasts. And one of the other members of the troupe came up, and the guy I was talking to introduced me and said, "Oh, he does a podcast about trading cards." "Oh, what, baseball or basketball?" I said, "Non-sports." "Oh," and walked off.
Oh no! Oh my God!
So that's the reaction amongst a lot of sports cards fans. It's the poor relation. Sport, non-sports, what, all that Star Wars stuff? No, don't want to know about that. Well, why don't you want to know about that? It's the same as you're collecting. It's small pieces of card printed on both sides that you randomly get in a packet, Which was my attitude when I first started collecting. My friend of mine used to collect comic books, and we used to go to a comic book show in Camden. And I went along just because it was something to do on a Sunday, and it didn't cost me anything to get up to London on a Sunday. I had a season ticket. And we went in, and one of the first stands we saw, there's a table. It was literally trestle tables. You've done non-sport now, so the Philly show, so you know what it's like. It's trestle tables, and there's people standing behind or sitting behind the trestle tables. And this person was selling trading cards, and I hadn't seen trading cards before, and they had Voyager, Star Trek Voyager trading cards. These were holofoil things. And I think these were cards that you got in the pack, and then you had to redeem them, and they sent you back a blueprint. Okay. But they were charging £5 for this card. And my comment was, £5 for a bit of cardboard, and walked on. Really? It was not 6 months later that I found out about, which is how I got into collecting, about the first Skybox Star Trek original series set that had autographs.
Wow.
Now, I didn't buy the set, but I found a stand at a local shopping mall that sold trading cards, and that guy had one of the autographed trading cards, which is going to be the first card I'm going to feature on my YouTube channel. And I thought, well, I'm never going to see any of the original series cast over here. Little did I know. So I bought it, and it was £25, I think, for this card. Probably massively overpriced for what it is. It's not a big name, but it was a Star Trek trading card.
£25 Shipwa. What would that be now? That would be like what? I don't know, $40? Canadian dollars.
Over here right now, it's probably about $30 US.
That's about 45.
Probably about 35 Canadian.
Okay.
Yeah, probably about 35 Canadian.
Oh,
so back then more. Okay. Back then more. Because I wasn't doing a podcast then, so we're talking about 97, 98. I got this. And then I think the next set came out, and I bought a box. And I managed to find a box of the first series, and I managed to get a couple of very nice autographs in the packs. So that got me hooked. I have an addictive personality. I collect collections. So if I get hooked by something, then I automatically, I daren't show you the house, but if you saw the house, you'd see I collect everything. So I got this one card that I bought, and then I bought a box, and I got some nice cards in that, and then I went on from there. And then a couple of years later, I thought, podcast.
You have quite an extensive collection then that dates back quite a while. I bet you have some interesting stuff in those.
I do. Not all of it. I've got a couple here that I can show you. I haven't brought a lot. Obviously, we have my most recent acquisition.
Yes, the two zebras. There's another card.
Which regular viewers will know. And everybody on the group will know, and Patreons will know.
Yeah,
Patreons, I don't know. But I picked out a couple of cards from my collection. Given that you're more on the art and the sketch side of the cards, already seen that one. So that was Harris, and that I only show you that just so I can embarrass Harris again. But one of my Star Trek cards that was a pack pull. I bought one pack.
Ooh,
I don't know if you can see that.
Oh my God! Wow, William Shatner.
I bought one pack in a local comic book store, and the very first pack was that. And if anybody can't read the signatures,
how cool is that? Wow. Neat.
Yeah, that's a Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner.
Nice.
So that is the pride of my collection, and that is locked away when it's not being shown to people on podcasts.
Nice.
But all the rest of the cards are going to show you are sketches, really. That one, which you might recognize.
That one. Yep. That's a long time ago.
Well, I found that, in case anybody doesn't know, there you go.
That's
it's by someone called Ingrid Hardy. I don't know who that is. But I found that on eBay. They weren't Star Trek Doctor Who sets. There was a UK company doing trading card sets for Doctor Who, which were fine, but they weren't sketches. And there were rumours about American companies were going to be doing the Doctor Who set, and I think one company actually did some promo cards that they've released at San Diego. But nothing ever appeared of it, and that company closed down sometime thereafter. I found that on eBay, not realising what it was. I saw it was you because I was familiar with your work, and I saw the character and I bought it. And then you confirmed to me what it was. So I'm quite pleased to have that.
Too.
Yes, I'm very pleased with that. We mentioned the Pernas.
Oh my God, that's
personal commission.
Elaine. That's Elaine's card, yes.
That's a personal commission. Yeah, that one, I think it was on DeviantArt or possibly the Non-Sport. I can't remember. It might have been DeviantArt. I think Elaine had put up an offer to do Family Guy sketches for quite a low price. But she put in there, if it's Stewie, Tony will have to help me with it. And that's Irina Spalko from the Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah,
I had a bit of a thing for collecting cards of that character, mainly because I like the hairstyle. And I like Kate Blanchett, but you know. And I emailed her and said, could I have one of Stewie done up as Irina Spalko? She said, yeah, I'll have to get Tony to draw Irina. And then, okay, that's fine. So, but they did that. So I got that. That was one.
I love that.
I'm quite fond of that one. Another one of my Irina Spalko collection, you may recognise the style of that.
Andrew Fry.
That is Andrew Fry. Andrew has probably forgotten doing that. He did a little offer on. Back in the day, a lot of artists used to do low price just to get their commissions up. They used to do low price offers, and I asked him to do that, and that one was just, I mean, when that came back, I'm staggered. Andrew Fry is such an amazing artist in that he just does pencil work, and it's so finely detailed. It's almost photographic. It's absolutely ridiculous how good he is. But the last one I wanted to show you really was and again, these are mostly commissions, but this one wasn't a commission as such, but it's a one-off. One of the guys that I used to know from Card Talk is Patrick Hamill.
Mm-hmm. I remember that name.
And Patrick has quite a reputation. I don't think he does much now in the way of trading cards. He's gone more into acting. He's appeared as a background artist on Game of Thrones.
Oh.
He's filmed in Belfast, and he lives in Belfast. So. He used to come over every year and help out at the memorabilia show that Harris used to come to. And this one year, this was the first year that I'd met him, and he did me a sketch card of my favourite author. Now, my favourite author is E.F. Benson, who is probably nobody's going to know, but he wrote a series of books called Map and Lucia that were later televised. He's Edwardian. He died in 1939. And Patrick just did that one off the top of his head.
Really?
And said, here you go, that. Thank you. So
gorgeous work. Absolutely.
It's lovely. I'm lucky in that I know a lot of very talented artists.
That's really, really.
Yourself included. So, but no, I mean, that's one of the things that the podcast helped me with, was being introduced, that and Behind the Canvas was being introduced to talented artists and seeing their work and seeing how they expand on their skill set and how they change over time. Some artists, they hit their style and they stay with that and they just choose different subject matter. Other artists start off slow and then gradually build up until they're better. It's the classic cliche of the 10,000 hours. A few artists that I know have done that, and their work now is miles ahead of their work when I first knew them. But it's been fun seeing the journey, and I have samples of some of those, you know.
That's what's fun about talking to people on podcasts like this, or even just online, and getting to know people. It's watching the journey as you do a journey yourself, because whether you're not, we're all doing some kind of a journey. And so yeah, it's a fascinating trip.
Yeah.
So you still collect now, or have you slowed down?
I have slowed down. I'll be honest with you. The last 10 or so years have not been kind economically. And it doesn't help that a lot of the sets that are out there are becoming increasingly niche collectors. I noticed it when I went over to the Philly show the last time back in 2016, I think. Companies were starting to bring out factory sets or guaranteed hit sets. Now, this is something that came in from the sports cards, where you bought a pack, you pay maybe $40 or $50 US for the pack, and you'd get 2 or 3 base cards. You might be guaranteed of getting an autograph, a skate card, a costume card, or some sort of, and I bought a few of those. There was a Warehouse 13 set, a Eureka set, pardon me, the Rittenhouse were doing, that I bought a couple of, and I managed to get some quite nice hits out of that. But when you start totting up how much it's going to cost to get the base set, which is very much the underrated part of the trading card world, the main reason for the set is the base card set, and the artwork and the design on those things is sometimes very sadly neglected in favour of the autograph cards. You get the high big name high hitters. To build up the set was starting to get a bit astronomical in cost. So now what I do is I'll occasionally have a look on eBay and see if there's individual cards of the chase cards, autographs, sketches. I know, hypocritical, but I will occasionally look out for those because there are certain things I like to look out for. One of my favourite things at the moment is finding people who've appeared in Doctor Who, but they're cards from other things.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, I've got a couple from Star Trek and a couple from Star Wars and a couple from odd little shows here, there and everywhere. And it's a trick you can use if you're interested in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You can pick up actors who have subsequently gone on to huge fame in the MCU, who appeared in something else. I've got one for Mahershala Ali. I've mangled his name, Mahershala Ali, who is cast as the new Blade.
Oh, okay. I have not seen.
No, he appears. His voice appears in one of the Marvel films at the end in a post-credit sequence. I'm not going to say which one because I don't want to do too many spoilers. But it's well publicised that he's going to be doing that. He won an Oscar for what was the film that year when they said it was La La Land and it wasn't. Won the Oscars.
Oof, I don't keep up with the Oscars.
No, anyway, he won an Oscar. But so the reason I got him was, this was before the MCU. The reason I got his autograph was because he'd also appeared in the 4400.
Oh my God, I watched that show.
His autograph in the 4400 was going for about five or £10.
Really? Wow.
So I picked it up. And then the Oscars got announced and he won, and the card went up to about $35, $40.
Oh.
And now it's even higher because he's in the MCU. So I pick up occasional bits like that. And I pick up, I still do occasionally get PSCs from artists I like and can still afford. I have a few favourite pet artists that I like to buy things from. And I still follow a lot of artists, and if there's ever any offers that they're doing, then I'll jump in. But otherwise, it's a case of most of the sets for the TV shows or the films that I like and used to collect a lot of have become very samey.
Have become very what?
Very samey. There's not much variation in them.
Gotcha, yeah. They kind of reuse everything.
Yeah, so like the original series of Star Trek, you had the original series of Star Trek, then you had the Star Trek movies, then you had quotable Star Trek, then you had women of Star Trek, then you had men of Star Trek, and you're getting the same things popping up but with a slightly different sheen to them. And I'm thinking, how many times do I need to have that card? I don't really need to have that same card 5 times. So I mean, they did it with the original, when Skybox did the original first Star Trek boxes with the autographs in, they had duplicate signers, but only because those actors played two different roles. So William Campbell, I've got both of the William Campbell autographs because he was in series 1 playing the Squire of Gothos.
Okay.
And he was in series 2 playing a Klingon in The Trouble with Tribbles.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. Star Trek, I think, is quite notable for taking some of the actors and just reusing them in different, which is really cool. And I think all through a bunch of the series,
it was,
I've seen all of them.
It was fairly common in American TV series of that time just to reuse an actor in later on, because you know, there was a certain element of Old Boys Club. I've worked with that actor on radio, so we'll have him in on this show, we'll have him in on that show.
Yeah.
And I listened to a lot of old time radio, and the same thing happened there. You hear voices and you think, I'm sure that was, you hear the guy who played Fred Flintstone playing a detective in one show, and then in the next show he's playing a gangster, but he's still Fred Flintstone.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, kind of add another allure to whatever it is you're listening to when you're listening.
Yeah.
Fred,
it's the same over here. I'll be honest with you, same with British TV shows of the 60s and 70s. And it's the reason why I like collecting cards from those sets, because again, oftentimes those cast members, this week they're in The Saint, next week they're in Doctor Who, the week after that they're in The Prisoner. So, and then give it another 10 years and they'll be in Space 1999 or the Persuaders. So you'll find those trading cards and you can say, oh, he was in Doctor Who. I've got a Bernard Cribbins from a trading card set based on the Avengers. This is the TV version, not the Marvel version. But Bernard Cribbins signed for that, and his card for that set was cheaper than buying Bernard Cribbins in a Doctor Who trading card. So I bought that one. Some people are hardcore. I just like the autograph. So yes, to answer your question, I still do collect, but it's not as much as I used to, and I'm really being very, very selective now. I'm picking and choosing what I want to collect, because otherwise I get too mad.
Oh no. And it's been a hard couple of years. You know, it's understandable. So where do you see your collecting going for the future? We're going to talk about your future of podcasting if you have one in a minute, but for now, how do you see your collecting going in the future? Do you think you're going to stay picky? Do you think you're going to stop? Do you think you're going to expand? Are you going to
I'll pause there for a moment because I can feel a cough. So I'll pause there for a moment and give you an edit point. Sorry, I had a cold last week and I'm just getting over it, but it's left me with a bit of a cough. Okay, that should be enough for you. Yeah, right. So, 3, 2, 1. I can see myself still collecting cards. What I can see myself doing is collecting already released cards.
Okay. And
new sets by independent companies that are quirky and offbeat and original and interesting. Like I said, we've already talked about Rich Parks and Kurt Kersteiner and the Perners. I haven't yet been able to get in on any of the Perners sets because those things sell out like hotcakes. They go, they put a post up on Facebook and they're gone. They sell out before the pre-orders are started. And all good wishes to them. They are obviously found their slot in the market, and they know what the collectors want, and they produce some outstandingly original artwork. Every single card they do is an original piece. It's an original character. And they haven't yet. I think in the early days they had to tell their artists, please don't use copyrighted characters, this. I don't think they have to do that now because the collectors know what they're getting, the artists know what they want, and they're producing fantastic works. And they're already wonderfully done. They're reasonably priced. They're fantastic. So companies like that, I want to support. And I say I've signed up for a couple of Kurt Kersteiner's little sets. I think he's got one. He seems to have moved pretty much almost entirely onto Kickstarter now. as I believe Richard has.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. The most recent set I got was a mini set that Nick Neocleus used to sign. He's an UK artist. He did a little set of zombie horror type things.
He's
and I find it that
artist. He's so good.
Oh, he is absolutely fantastic, and one of the shyest people I've ever met. But I managed to get him on my podcast, and he a couple of times actually. He actually agreed to come on a couple of times. I must have been using the right techniques at that time to talk him onto it. But he did one, and I wish he'd do some more because he did such a small number, and it sold out almost immediately. I was able to get in on that, and he got a fantastic little set. Couple of little sketch cards, nicely printed cards, and some stickers, and it was beautiful. Very wacky packages meet zombies, that sort of style. That sort of thing I'll follow, and I keep an eye out on the trading card sets on Kickstarter because that seems to be where the quirky stuff is, and that's where the interesting stuff is. And I'm more interested in the quirky, the different.
Yeah.
The stuff that other people won't necessarily look at, the stuff that may not be as exciting to people who just want to see the latest card of C-3PO or Princess Leia.
Well, there really is a place for all of it, I think, for the small sets and for the big companies. I mean, there's room for everybody.
Yeah, I mean that's why I like. Back in the day, that's why I liked companies like Sidekick Media, who did a few interesting little boxes. One of which we talked about before you started recording, which was a set based on the artist Stucklord. Yes. And I have to be careful about talking about Stucklord because he's.
A lot of people who are listening or watching this right now probably won't know Stucklord. It's quite a while ago.
Yeah, he is very much an independent artist, very much street style, very experimental, very modern.
Very cool.
He's very cool, and his primary focus at the moment seems to be, as it has been for a while. It was always something he did, was creating his own action figures, where he'd take apart existing action figures and make them into his own action figures, and then recreating all the packaging and all that sort of thing. It's fantastic. And he does auctions and that sort of thing. He appeared on an art competition show on American TV a few years ago, and I was lucky enough to get him on my podcast shortly afterwards. So he was quite a big name back then. But I mean, Tom Lichtman from Sidekick was someone who was interested in the concept, not the product. If he could make the concept,
some really cool ideas. I actually got to meet him in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
went for the con. He was down there. He's got some pretty cool ideas.
Yeah, he's some of his ideas don't work, to be fair, but I think he's more of an art person than a commercial trading card person. I know they do cards for other companies. They print off for other companies, but he's more into the concept of the thing, and if it sells, great. As long as he can cover his costs, he's happy. And he did some fantastic work on that set, and with some of the other ones later on. I mean, on that particular set, some of the base cards had been shot. Some of them had been sprayed with aerosol paints. There were old New York Metro tickets. There were there were triptych art pieces that he commissioned from other people, like Len Bellinger, and there was I want to say Jason Orange, but I'm pretty sure that's a guy from Take That, so I know it's not him. But it was some similar name to that. There was a lot of local artists in the New York area that he got, and he was moved in the same circles with. And they did some fantastic pieces of work. And they were base cards, but it was a sort of set that you could never build up a complete base card set, because every card was different. They'd been spattered, they weren't spattered, they'd been creased, they'd been cut, they'd been shot at. it was more of an art project than a trading card set, and that was what tickled me. It was so interesting, and it was fantastic to see. And I still have that set in upstairs. It's just a wonderful piece to see. And there are all sorts of other little companies like that. And there's other manufacturers who don't necessarily do sets, but they do individual cards, like the Stems, who do the metal cards.
Yeah. I've gotten cards from them.
Yeah, I had some cards. The last time I went over to Philly, I had some cards made up, and we sold those as a tribute to one of the regular helpers at the show, who passed away. And we donated it to his favourite charity. And they donated the metal cards.
Yeah. For anyone who's not aware, that's the Fairy Metal Company.
That's the ones.
They really do some outstanding cards. I've had one made so far, two made so far for the previous book project that I had going, and I'll be having another one made for this one. The only problem is that sometimes they're so busy, it can take a while to get your cards.
Well, they've become so popular, and I know they do work for some of the more established trading card companies as well now. I think there was a James Bond set that featured some of their cards. So they are amazingly popular. So it's little things like quirky things like that. And then stepping out of in the same genre as of collectibles in random packaging, but because they came with a trading card. But there was a company that used to put out 7-inch vinyl records that were randomly inserted into the box, and each one came with a trading card, and they had variants, so they were coloured vinyl variants. It's not a trading card, but it's a randomly packaged. It was reasonably priced, and it was a collectible, so I collected it. So that's the way I see myself going, is less with the big names, because unless they do something outrageous, there's nothing new that I can see that they're going to do with an established property. Doctor Who's come out, and they're following the same path. It's autographs that are highly priced. It's a different collectability levels. They're heading towards the sports sector in that one, so you have colour background variations, and you have different prices depending on this, that, and the other. And no, sorry. If someone was to come out with an interesting set based on Ted Lasso, I'd be tempted. I like Ted Lasso. Or any of the popular shows. I mean, I know there's companies doing things for Stranger Things.
Yeah.
If someone were to do something unusual with that, I've not seen the show, but it might intrigue me enough to follow it. I know Highlander has been doing some interesting stuff. Not Highlander, Outlander, pardon me. Highlander is showing my age. Outlander, and there's a few different shows. I think the problem with a lot of the big established trading card companies now is finding the property to make the set for, because there are so many sources now.
So many sources, and I get the feeling that it's complicated to get the license in many.
Exactly. Yeah, because I mean, you have Apple TV, you have Amazon Prime, you have Netflix, you have Paramount Plus, you have BritBox, BBC Online. I don't know. I don't know whether there's any exclusive companies in Canada that do streaming.
I think so.
Though at the moment, I suspect they may have problems seeing as the internet went out a short while ago, my understanding. But yeah.
Well.
No, I dare say it. I know there's some fairly sizable compensation being paid out on that one, I think. But the trouble is, there's so many shows now, and it's great because we've all got choice, but it means that there isn't necessarily one show that everybody is watching. Back in the day, everybody used to watch The Wire, everybody used to watch Doctor Who, everybody used to watch The West Wing, everybody used to watch, I don't know, Star Trek. Now, I'm watching Star Trek Lower Decks, I'm watching Star Trek Discovery, I'm watching Star Trek this, I'm not watching any of them.
What I find difficult is that you've got so many streaming services now, and it's just not possible to pay for them all. It's a little bit overwhelming. I'll be glad when they kind of chill on that a little bit.
I think there's going to have to be some sort of consolidation. Whether that means Amazon Prime or Disney buys up even more, I don't know. I dread that to a degree.
Yes,
but I think there's going to have to be some consolidation because it's getting. I mean, Paramount Plus has just launched here in the UK, and that's another £6, and £6, say maybe another $8 Canadian-ish a month. Well, I'm already paying for Apple Plus. Yeah, I'm already paying for Apple Plus.
$20. I mean, it adds up. It's just ridiculous.
It's getting to the stage where you might as well go back to the bad old days of cable and just pay them $80 a month and take what they give you. I don't want that.
I don't want that either. So let's get into your future of podcasting now, because
right.
Again, your collecting and your podcasting goes hand in hand. So let's see, what do you have planned for the future? Why have you decided, first of all, that you might want to come back?
You decided me.
I'm sorry?
You and Lindsay decided me.
Oh my God.
No, seriously. Obviously, the last few years, for reasons we won't go into, the horrible times, a lot of people have been doing a lot more streaming, a lot more online viewing, a lot more podcast listening. So podcasts have proliferated like nobody's business. I'm sure someone out there is doing a podcast about sourdough. There's bound to be someone out there. There's a podcast about everything.
Yeah.
And really, I know there's a few podcasts out there about trading cards, non-sport trading cards. But as far as it goes, you're about the best of them that I've seen. And you've become really, really good, really, really quick, because you've only been going, what, a couple of months?
Couple of months, yeah.
Couple of months. Yeah, and you're getting some really good audiences. You're getting some good feedback from your viewers and your Patreons and your followers. And I'll be honest with you, I was jealous. I was thinking, I used to do that. Why aren't I doing that? The bad memories of spending hours and days editing audio files to get rid of all the ums and ers disappeared into the back of my somewhat dim and dark memory. And I thought, no, I want to do that again. But I thought, I don't want to do that again the way I did it, because it was literally a one-man band. I used to arrange to talk to someone on Skype, or I used to have to go to a show and I'd have to pay to go to the show because I wasn't being sponsored. On the one occasion, I didn't have to pay to go to a show. That's because my listeners paid for me to go to the show. And that was the first time I went to Philly. An artist called Chris Bradbury set up a fund. And a lot of artists donated artwork, and people
I remember
paid for that. Yeah, and he gave me the money, and that covered my airfare and hotel at the show, which was fantastic. I'd never seen generosity like that before, and it was fantastic. So, but that aside, that was one of the very few occasions I've profited. Excuse me. That was one of the very few occasions I profited out of the podcast. So I wanted to find an easier way of doing it. And then it occurred to me, looking at some of the things on YouTube, particularly on the tech stuff that I've been watching, and it's literally just a talking voice looking at something and talking about something, and there's a slideshow of pictures. I thought, well, I could probably do that. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm still in the process of getting everything set up, but what I'm going to be doing is looking at a short form YouTube video channel where it'll be no more than about 5 or 6 minutes. It'll be one card. It'll be my voice talking about that card. It'll either be the history of the card or the background, the history of the card, anything I know about how it came about, what the set it was from was, or if it was a commission, how I commissioned it.
That's awesome. That's a brilliant idea.
And I've got a little motorized turntable, USB powered turntable, and a white box that I use for my photography. and I've got a little card stand. So I'm going to be putting the card in the card stand, and then it's going to rotate round. And as it rotates round, I'm going to talk about it. And when it's done a full 360 a couple of times, that'll be the end of the show. And hopefully I'll have passed on either some of my enthusiasm or some of my interest in that card. And it's not necessarily going to be one of the big hitters, like the one I showed earlier, the Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner card. That's not necessarily going to be, it's going to feature because it has to. It's one of my favourite cards, but it's not going to be the star. I'm going to look at other things. So the first card I'm going to do is the first card I got, which was a Star Trek autograph card. And I'm not going to name it. You'll have to watch the show. But there's going to be commissions that I've done, or there's going to be odd little promos that people may not know existed. Inkworks, who are no longer with us, used to do a whole load. They popularised the multiple promo card for trading card sets. And one of the more difficult ones to get, not impossible, one of the more difficult ones to get was the Friend of Alan card. He always used to do, this was Alan Kaplan who ran Inkworks, and he always used to do a limited run of cards that he'd give out personally. Wow. But only if you'd helped him out with something. And I've got one of those for a Buffy set because I pointed out something on a magazine article. He heard about it and sent me the card. As some of the companies used to do internet website only. You had to send in an international reply coupon or a stamped addressed envelope, and they'd send you back the card in return. And you could only get those whilst they had stocks. So it's going to be promos. It's going to be sketch cards occasionally. It's going to be autograph cards. It's going to be base cards because, like I said earlier, base cards are the most important part of the set. Without the base card, you don't have a set. But a lot of people think, oh yeah, I've got a base, but where's the autograph? I didn't get a good set because I didn't get XYZ star, even though XYZ star signed 10 cards and you're unlikely to get one.
I think you're one of the only people I've ever heard say that about base sets, that, base sets are really very important and all that. That's super interesting. I can't wait to see your show.
Well, fingers crossed I can get it all together. What I'm planning on doing is recording about 4 or 5 of them in advance. Mm-hmm. And then I'll put them out once a week and see what the reaction is. And when I get to the end of the 4 or 5, if the reaction is, yeah, we like that, then I'll record some more. If the reaction is, then, okay, it was an experiment. I tried it. I won't bother. But it's just a way for me to sneak back in under the wire. Do the podcasting thing again. I don't have to. I mean, if monetization comes on YouTube, it's easier and fine. That's lovely. It'll help you buy another card. But I'm not looking for monetization. As I said at the start, I'm more looking to share my interest and my fascination with the cards and with the people who make them. Yeah. So the other thing I'm looking at doing, though, that's a bit more long term, is possibly revisiting Behind the Canvas and talking to artists. But audio only, as I always used to do, and not necessarily doing trading card artists, but talking to artists who work on trading cards are more than welcome. But it's going to be talking about the stuff they do that isn't trading cards. Most
artists so far that we've talked to, and there are like a lot more to go. Nearly everyone has a foot in the sketch card thing, but they also do other stuff anyway. So it's super interesting to know about what else they do, because you cannot, it's really difficult to make a living only in sketch cards. There may be a few artists who manage to succeed, but generally speaking, you have your foot in many different streams.
I can think of only one artist who possibly, and I'll be honest with you, he was probably an exception rather than the rule. He was a rock star of the trading card artists. Nah.
Yes. Who I've been trying to get on the show, by the way.
Yeah. I tried for ages to get him on, but when I tried, I'm not criticizing the guy, and I don't think he was entirely him, but he was going through the rock star phase. and he was a big name, and he was popular, and he was very busy, and nobody could get him. I don't mean he had an attitude. I mean he was just very busy.
He
And I
was
think,
very busy, but if you look at his cards, I mean, it must have taken him like,
oh,
I don't know, a week to do a card. It's incredible how much detail he puts in there. Oh no,
I
he's
was
a
lucky to
super
get.
nice person.
Oh, he's a really nice person, and I have chatted to him online. And it pleased me to see that he's coming back onto the social medias now. So I think he's got through whatever it was that he was going through, and he's now hopefully in a good place, and he's able to chat again. So I'm lucky enough to have a NAR, but it's from one of his least well known sets. It's from the set that they produced for the film Robots.
Oh, yes.
An animated film.
Yes.
I think Robin Williams did one of the voices, but he did a robot. He did a series of robot sketches. It's black and white. It was cheap because it wasn't typical NAR.
Yeah.
I bought it because I liked the look of the thing, and it was NAR. So NAR, because it was always NAR with a couple of exclamation marks. But yeah, going back to what you're saying, though, no, I don't think any sketch artist can really make a living just doing sketch cards. I don't know the full details, but I know the rates that some of the card companies are paying is pitifully small. The expectations placed on the artist is incredibly high, and a lot of artists burn out from just doing sketch cards for the big manufacturers. I know some of the smaller manufacturers are more in touch with their artists, but you just look at some of the sad stories of some of the cards that got released, and it's not a significant income. It's more the sad cliche of exposure.
Yes.
You get your card into a major set featuring a big TV or film property. Someone pulls your card and says, "I like that." They might get in touch with you. Mm-hmm. But you're taking a chance they might get in touch with you. They might not, and then you might find that you're doing another 1,500 cards.
But it's fun, for a while anyway. It's super fun. I mean,
it is. But then you start realizing how much work you're doing. Yeah, but then you realise how much work you're doing for so many cards, and I think the expectations of the companies, as far as the sketch cards was concerned, started to increase. Once upon a time, it used to be you could do a pencil sketch, hence sketch cards. But then it went to we need you to do coloured pencils, we need you to do paint, we need you to do this.
For the bigger companies, yes, it has changed a lot. No argument.
But they're not paying you anymore. And I know a lot of artists that I used to know from the good old days when trading card sets had sketch cards in big time. They're not doing sketch cards now. They're doing commissions. They're doing artwork. They're doing their own thing. They're going on Etsy and they're doing stuff like that.
I will never put sketch cards down because I think it's a fabulous, absolutely fantastic way to hone your skills, to learn new techniques, try different things. It's small, so if you have like a limited attention span like some of us do, it's great. It's small. I love it. It's not something I like to do like 1,000% of the time, but
no,
other things are interesting too. But I love sketch cards. I think they're great.
I do. Don't get me wrong. I do.
Oh no, yeah, but we're going to have to kind of start winding down this
Sure.
Particular episode. Do you have, first of all, now that you've cleared up what you're going to be doing with your podcast and all of that, where are people going to be able to find you if they want to watch those episodes?
Right. At the moment, I don't have a significant web presence. I have still got the domain, but I've let the website lapse. So I'm going to have to reset that up. However, there is a UK Cardcast group on Facebook.
Is there? I didn't even know that UK Cardcast.
Oh yeah, that's still there from when the podcast was running. So if you find UK Cardcast on Facebook, you should find the group, and I'm open to anybody joining on that one. And any links to the YouTube channel when it starts will be on there.
Okay.
There is a UK Cardcast channel on YouTube, but as you noted when you started doing this podcast, it sometimes takes a while for the name to sync up rather than having some weird combination of letters and numbers for the URL.
You need to have at least 100 followers. Once you have
that's the thing.
A little over 100 followers or something, they will let you have your own name. you can, I don't think you can choose it. They suggest one or something. I forget how it
Yeah.
works. Yeah,
So,
you don't really have much control over it. But
yeah.
you do have to have 100. It takes about a week after that. Then it's set up and then it's much easier to do.
That I've got the channel there, but I haven't got a lot of content on there because I've just been doing a few test runs and some teases, so they're up there. Mainly to see what the video quality is like, because I'm new to doing video. I'm using my phone, so which has got a not bad camera. And the light box and all the gear. So fingers crossed that works out okay. So yeah, follow me. I'll join the group on Facebook if possible. If anybody wants to make suggestions or participate, the old UK Carcast email is still going. That's ukcarcast@gmail.com.
Hold on, not so fast. The UK Carcast at
All
Gmail.
one word, at gmail.com.
Okay, I'll put all the links below in the description box.
Sure. And you can find me. I'm on Instagram as Paul Bynes Photos.
Okay.
I think I'm on Instagram as UK Carcast as well, but there's not a lot on there at the moment. So,
gotcha.
And I'm around. So do a search for me or UK Carcast and you'll find me. And at some point, I probably will bring back the webpage, but I've just got to. I have the domain name. I just got to get the website sorted out. I went through a phase of I can't be bothered to update that, and then it didn't update long enough. So,
Well,
quite a lot of my first page went.
Thank you for this. I truly cannot wait to see your YouTube channel and all those cards and the history behind the cards and all that. It sounds fascinating. It truly sounds like fascinating. I hope people will go and follow you and get your follower count up so you can get your own name and all that stuff. Thank you so much.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Thank you so much.
I'm hoping to make it the archaeology of the trading card. Let's put it that way.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Okay. Well, thank you so much for having been on the show.
Thank you, Ingrid.
It would be great to have you on again once you've started rolling, and you can give us a bit of feedback on how you're enjoying it and all your millions of followers and your plans for that.
Yeah, will do. Look forward to doing that. And my very best wishes to Lindsay. Sorry she wasn't here today, but I hope she gets better very soon.
Oh yeah, I hope she gets better too. Well, she will get better. Just hope it's quick. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Nice to see you again, Ingrid.
Oh, yeah, nice to see you, Paul. Thank you so much.